Howdy gamers, let's talk about the runes for Zack's support. Coming into Season 10, Zack's support's actually viable. Previous seasons he was kind of a joke compared to every other support champion, as they just did his job better. But with the new support item, it offers a little bit of AP, which helps him. The laning phase is weaker, so you get a scale a bit more guaranteed. That and Zack's engage range is so much better than any other support in the game. So he has a lot of things going for him this season. But with the runes, it's pretty basic. It's not so crazy. Starting off with the keystone, it's Aftershock, obviously. Aftershock, after immobilizing an enemy champion, you get increased armor and magic resist by 35 plus 80% of your bonus for 2.5 seconds. So every time you engage, basically, you're going to get these bonus resistances right as you go in. And with Zack, you initially jump and then you spend like every cooldown, and then it's just about surviving until you get another rotation of those cooldowns off, or you've killed the target entirely. So it is important that you have durability like as you engage, because if you don't, then you're just jumping on someone and then they can turn onto you. And with Zack, you also don't have a lot of you don't have a lot of durability once your abilities are on cooldown, or if you haven't seed someone. So there's the counterplay there. With Aftershock, you also deal damage. It's based on your level and then based on your bonus health, which it's basically all Zack's going to have anyways. And they also changed Aftershock this season where the cooldown's lower. So with it only being 20 seconds, you have a lot more opportunities to actually look for a jump in lane. In prior seasons, if your Aftershock was down, you just couldn't participate in the laning phase, basically. Now it's like every couple of waves you have the opportunity to jump on the enemy and then kind of just see if it works out, especially in solo queue, and especially like if you're new to playing Zack support, you have a lot of opportunities to like see what happens if you actually land the jump onto someone. And then if you do, then you're rewarded as well. So it's a really good change, especially for Zack support. You do have to buy the bonus resistances though, as the flat amount of stats offered by Aftershock is lower now, but then the scaling's higher as you get 80% of your bonus resistances, which is perfect for Zack too, as the first item you're going to be completing is Gargoyles. So it's one of the most like highly synergistic runes for any champion, but it's kind of how it goes with any engage support. Aftershock is of course just fantastic. You obviously don't go something like Grasp because you're just not going to proc it, and the damage isn't meaningful in the bot lane, and then with Guardian, the cooldown's just too long, and it's not about blocking poke damage as Zack, it's about like enabling your all-in even more. Third rune, or second rune, is going to be Font of Life. Impairing the movement of an enemy champion marks them for 4 seconds. Ally champions who attack the mark enemy heal for a little bit. So anytime you land your E or your Q or even your ult, you're going to mark the enemies, and then any ally that hits them is going to be healing just a little bit. With Zack, you don't have any, you're not a traditional support, so you don't have like any heal or shield for your ally. So having the little bit of healing from Font of Life helps your AD carry just like stay at a healthier amount of HP throughout trades without like any sort of extra input. It's the same thing where like you're just landing your abilities, but your AD carry is just going to have more health because of it. And then come mid game, all of your allies can proc this. That's where you really start getting a ton of value out of Font of Life, is whenever you land a knock up onto like 4 enemies, and then all of your allies are hitting them, and then all of your allies are just healthier because of it. So pretty solid rune, and it's just synergistic, as like you have 3 CC abilities and you're just gonna mark them all the time. Fourth row, all of these are okay options. Conditioning and bone plating being your best ones. Conditioning, after 10 minutes, you gain 9 armor and 9 magic resist, and then you gain a percentage increase in armor and magic resist. This is the best option for Zack, as again, your first item is going to be Gargoyles, but also Zack doesn't really have to participate in the laning phase, especially if you have a losing lane. So you don't have to jump on the enemy. And if you get to mid game, you're just going to be stronger than the enemy support if they're not running this, because you're just going to have more stats. And then the percentage increase is going to synergize with Aftershock, and then it's going to synergize with your first item. So you basically get like 14 to like 16 armor and magic resist for free from this. It's so strong. But the only thing you'd be missing out on would be either Second Wind, which helps you in poke matchups. After taking damage from an enemy champion, you heal for 4% of your missing health, plus 6 over 10 seconds. But in poke matchups, you don't want to interact anyways. You can kind of just get pushed in. And then with bone plating helps you in melee matchups because it's on a longer cooldown at 45 seconds, But with bone plating, after you take damage from an enemy champion, the next 3 spells or attacks you receive deal less damage based on your level. So it basically just gives you a more effective HP, which is nice, but again, it's not Zach's job to like eat a hook and then win the trade afterwards. So other supports do that better. Champions like Thresh, Leona, etc., where they can just eat abilities and then turn it on to the enemy champion. Zach is all about just engaging and then having more stats and then being able to survive longer in that fight. Fourth rune is going to be Overgrowth. You absorb life essence from monsters and enemy minions, basically just enemy minions, and then you permanently increase your maximum health by 3 for every 8 absorbed. And then once you've absorbed 120 monsters and minions, basically just minions, then you gain an additional 3.5 maximum health. 3.5% maximum health. So like again, this in combination with conditioning is saying like if you don't win early game against Zach's support, you're really gonna be feeling it. And so long that you're just playing passive, and even you can be roaming, you don't have to just sit in the lane and bot lane. You can be roaming and then still be like building up these bonuses like into the mid game. So with Overgrowth, Overgrowth is basically going to give you, like with Zach, you basically get a little over a Ruby Crystal for free, which again is really, really insane. That's like 400 gold minimum and a little bit more value, and then you get these stats for free too. And then you get the Aftershock stats for free whenever you engage. You get so much wild free value just from these runes. And the only way like you're losing with these is if you're just fighting like before 10 minutes, which you don't have to on Zach's support. With Zach, it's just about like getting levels early, getting the points in your E, and then once the dragon fight starts, that's when you really start interacting. Unless you have a winning lane in which, you know, you can actually fight. Second rune tree is going to be Inspiration with Perfect Timing and Cosmic Insight. Perfect Timing, you get a one-time stopwatch that you can use at 10 minutes. And then with the one-time stopwatch, the way you want to use it is whenever you engage on the enemy and you're just wildly separated from your team, which Zach can do pretty often because your jump range is so far. You can get on top of the enemy, CC them, and then before you die or like as you're on top of them, you can use the stopwatch stasis, which is like Zanya stasis, where you're untargetable. And then once you're in that stasis, it gives your team time to like catch up to you basically. It can also make it so you can dodge crucial abilities, you can dodge ultimates. It just has a ton of utility and makes it like really brutal for the enemy to deal with, as especially because you're probably going to be using it in early fights, and early fights determine most of the game, and especially in solo queues. So having an item that lets you just dodge everything once is so crazy. You're also going to be reducing the cost of Gargoyle's Stoneplate, which should be your first item on Zach's support, and then you also have a reduced cooldown on it. It's so this is like the best rune ever for Zach's support. This is like this. If Aftershock wasn't so strong, like this would be the best rune for him. It's so weird. And then with Cosmic Insight, you get 5% CDR on your abilities, summoner spells, and items. So again, your Gargoyles is going to be on a lower cooldown. You're going to have your Flash and Ignite up more often. And then the 5% CDR is kind of just for your W, as once you're on top of the enemy, you want to be able to spam it more often. So that's nice. And then it helps with everything else as well, of course. And then for adaptive runes, it's going to be CDR, Armor, Armor. The CDR rune is scaling, and with supports, you basically cap out around level 11. So the CDR rune basically gives you like 6% CDR at most stages of the game, which is fine for Zach support. You only need about you only need about 10 or 10 or like 11 CDR that you're going to get from Cosmic Insight, and I guess you would call this a CDR rune. And then double armor. Zach has a bit of magic resist scaling, but even in enchanter or mage matchups, and even tank matchups, like you don't have to fight them in the laning phase, so you don't need the magic resist. And if you're taking too much damage from them, it's kind of just at your own fault. If you have double armor, it makes it so that once you're on top of the enemy, it makes it harder for the AD carry to finish you off and any other AD source on their team. So like Jungle Graves, Irelia, champions like this, where once you're on top of them, they will just deal less damage because you have more resistances, more armor basically. So these are the default runes I recommend for Zach support. pretty good pick coming into Season 10. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I answer literally all of them. And if this video helped you, leaving a like helps me. And if you're interested in some support gameplay, check out twitch.tv/SawyerNelson, link in the description. I'll probably be playing Zac support come start of the season. So that's that. Hope this video helped. Now, if you're still here, if you're still interested, let's talk about the secondary runes, because none of the thing is with the secondary trees, you wouldn't go anything else primary, but with all the secondary trees, you have to beat perfect timing. You have to beat perfect timing and value, which none of them do. They don't even come close, because the one-time stopwatch is insane, and then the gargoyles being reduced cost and lower cooldown is absolutely insane for Zac. So with precision, your best option would be this and this. Restored health on takedowns and more tenacity. Zac support doesn't need tenacity. Once you're on top of someone, you're already there. It's not important that you can get out or stay on top of someone. The restored health on takedowns, also not so useful, because even if Zac dies in a fight, you still have the passive. And if he dies without the passive, it's kind of your job as support anyways. For secondary runes, Cheap Shot's not that good, and then I guess you would go Ult Hunter. The damage you would add with Cheap Shot, not so useful, and these two don't beat perfect timing alone. Don't even like factor in Cosmic Insight. Like Cheap Shot and Ult Hunter just don't beat the perfect timing rune. And then same with Sudden Impact. The damage you're gonna add is so negligible versus how much you can tank by having the gargoyles earlier, or by being able to avoid literally all damage abilities in the game. And then with sorcery, I guess your best option would be Nullifying Orb and Transcendence. Nullifying Orb giving you a magic shield whenever you're low, and then Transcendence giving you 10% CDR at level 10. Again, both of these combined don't beat perfect timing, so I figured I would mention those for those who are interested, as you stuck around till the end of the video. So that's that. If you're playing Zac, make sure to run the pink chroma 2. It looks the best. Bye bye. Thanks for watching. See ya. Hope this video helps. See ya, dude.